How's it? Welcome back. So I finally had a chance to try out a lucid dreaming experiment. Granted, it was a pretty half-ass attempt at this experiment, but try out an experiment I've been somewhat interested in pursuing for the past couple months or so. But like really, I've been running into a couple problems with it. Where one is, I just haven't been getting lucid all that often. I mean, it's been kind of long, maybe like the past 6 months or so. I just haven't been paying that much attention to my practice. Thus, my lucid dream frequency has kind of fallen off a cliff. I'll go a good like month or so without having any lucid dreams. Then I'll have a decent one. That'll get me interested back into the practice. I'll be paying attention to it again. And at least for me personally, when I say like paying attention to my practice again, the main thing I focus on personally at least is just getting my dream recall up a lot and starting to dream journal consistently again. So I'll do that for say the next week or so, and I might have 2 or 3 nights that week with lucid dreams. But then lo and behold, I lose interest again. I stop paying attention to it, and then I'm hit with another dry spell. And actually the thing that's fixed that and turned that around recently is the whole modified wake back to bed technique that I covered in hopefully the video that I posted right before this. But essentially I've been sleeping a lot earlier than normal recently. Well, I'm talking like 8 to 9 p.m. ish. And so I'll wake up a lot of times really early, like 3 or 4 in the morning. And then I'll feel like I'm really awake and like I don't want to go back to sleep. So I'll just go ahead and get up. But then half hour, an hour after that, I get sleepy and then I want to go back to sleep. But then to avoid waking my wife up coming in and out of the bedroom, if I get up at like 3 or 4 in the morning, I just take my blanket and shit with me. And then if I want to go back to sleep, I just end up sleeping in one of the other empty rooms that we have. And it's that whole sleeping in another room thing combined with wake back to bed that has been working to get my lucid dream frequency up again. But then the other problem I've been running into is that when I have been getting lucid recently and I was able to remember, there was something that I wanted to try out, is I wasn't able to remember what that something thing was, which brings up another kind of side topic here, but something called dream incubation, where you can absolutely be lucid in a dream, know there was something that you wanted to try, but not be able to retrieve that information. So a dream incubation is you basically try to get that thought or idea or experiment in this case sunk deep enough into your head that if you do get lucid, you'll be able to recall that easily. And my general go-to technique for dream incubation, although I was not doing it the night that I was successful at trying out this experiment, is I'll just simply meditate on the idea as I'm falling asleep, and that's it. So with that long preamble out of the way, what's the experiment? So the experiment was, instead of telling the dream characters around me that this is a dream, I'm dreaming, or it's not real, which is something I do very, very often in my dreams, I was going to try and do the opposite and try to tell them that, oh, this is not a dream and this is real. So some background on the dream before I was getting lucid is I was dreaming of being in my house and trying to clean my room. And I kept like getting close to be done or think I was finished, and then I would realize there was some other messy part of it that I forgot to clean and I would have to go back to clean it. So I was like all irritated in this dream, but then I was also really tired, right? And then one of my go-to ways to try and actually wake myself up out of a dream, kind of separate there too, but also just to stay awake in general, is I'll like shake my head, slap my cheeks and shit. If I'm trying to wake myself up out of a dream and I do that, I tend to close my eyes and shake my head. And that has always worked for me. Maybe not on the very first try that I do it. Sometimes I'll just kind of like teleport or change dream environments. But if I keep at it, I've always, even when dealing with sleep paralysis, that has always broken through to my real head and I've woken up in bed. So I was essentially doing that minus the closing eye part, right? And then I actually end up waking myself up. So then I wake up in bed and I'm all happy. I'm like, okay, great, that was a dream, right? I don't gotta actually deal with it. But then I really was really tired. So I ended up falling asleep really quickly right after that. And then I entered back into the same dream. And I didn't have a wild, right? I didn't notice the transition back into dreaming. Just the next thing I noticed is I was in my room again and I had all these like water bottles, soda cans, and juice and shit that all spilt. I was like, oh man, fuck no, I gotta clean this up too. And it was actually the feeling of irritation is what clued me into the fact that I was dreaming. Or like over the years, I've kind of worked that into being a dream sign for me because, relatively often I'll be irritated in my dreams. So I'll just kind of use that as a dream sign. So figuring that out, I'm like, okay, thank God I can just ignore this shit and go explore the dream environment. And then, sorry, excuse me. But then in the house, I also knew that my kids were in the house with me, right? And I was in this like upstairs level. So I go to jump over the railing and go back down to the bottom floor, which is where I thought they were. And I end up landing like right next to them. And this is kind of just a random thing, but like I land and then my younger son kind of like jumps back and looks at me like this, and it reminded me a lot of my cat. So then I was like, hey boys, I'm dreaming. Let's go explore the dream environment. And then as I said that, that's when I went, oh wait, there's this experiment I've been wanting to run. So I did kind of fuck it up already by telling them that I was dreaming. But nonetheless, I'm like, okay, well, I'll try to run that back. And I was like, wait, boys, we're awake and I have an experiment or a way to test that. And this experiment, you know, it kind of makes sense. I don't really know why this is what came to my mind, but I was telling them, I'm going to look at you really closely in the eyes. And if our eyes are really clear and white, then we know that we're dreaming. And that's actually a pretty decent way to wake yourself up out of a dream, is if you look at something, not even necessarily really close, but just kind of statically stare at something without having much, you know, activation and trying to make it more clear or something like that. That's a pretty good way to wake you up. But I don't know why this is the thought that crossed my mind. I'm like, okay, we'll go ahead and do that. So like I look at my younger son first, I stared him really closely in the eyes, and it kind of surprised me because his eyes were really clear and white. I was like, oh, you know, that's kind of cool. So then I go to my older son and I do that to him. And I was like, see how clear our eyes are? That means we're awake. And then my older boy's like, oh, I looked at my hand and I have 6 fingers, so I know that we're dreaming. And yeah, that's basically it. It did carry on after that. Then we did move on to go explore the dream environment together. We like go outside the house, and we were in this almost like desert kind of rundown like city-ish area. It looked a lot like the level in Battlefield 6 that has the pyramids in the background. And so, okay, let's go fly up and, you know, try to get really high and explore the space. So I'm flying up with them, and then I was hitting like this invisible ceiling and couldn't get much higher than like above the tallest building, which is just like Battlefield, by the way. So I kind of like running into this invisible ceiling. So then we land on the roof, and then my younger son ends up disappearing at this point. So it's just me and the older boy. So I'm trying to figure out a way like to have some fun, right? I wanted to get up really high to drop or zoom around and do fun shit. So it's like, oh, you know what we can try to do instead is we'll try skip across the rooftops, kind of like you're throwing rocks. So I was like, yeah, we just go like this. And I started doing that. We started skipping from like rooftop to rooftop, and it was pretty cool. Anyway, the dream went on a bit more after that. I ended up losing my lucidity not too long after that. And yeah, that's it. Anyway, just thought something I would share. It was a pretty half-assed attempt at that experiment. But then again, I'm also not that interested in really trying it again. We'll see. If it happens to randomly cross my mind one night when I'm lucid, I'll maybe give it another shot. But yeah, just something I thought I would share. Until the next video, keep your lucid dreaming practice legit.